Well, hello everybody. How's it going? I hope you're all doing really good. Well, we're going to look at something different besides the same guitar body as we have been in the last few videos. This is the neck that goes to that guitar body, though. All joking aside, what we're going to do here is go over the frets here. They're kind of dirty and kind of hazed over. I don't think it's been played for a while. And we do have some high frets to deal with, so I'm going to probably level them too. We got a notch straight edge out here, so the first thing I like to do is check and make sure the neck is straight before I do any filing or sanding. Okay, so a nice tool to have if you're going to do this kind of stuff. As you can see, everything's down nice and tight, so it's flat. You know, it's notched out for different scale lengths. That's why there's two sides to it. I just wanted to add that as well. So everything's straight and flat, and we're pretty much ready to go. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go down through the fret rocker here and see which ones are high. That don't feel too bad. I thought I had... Okay, that one is high out on the end and a little bit in the middle. That's the second fret right here, so I'm just going to put a mark on there. Let's go to the next one. Okay, you can hear the little clanking sound. That one's pretty high too. Again, this one's a little high on the end. So I'll just go down through and mark the ones that are rattling. That one's high right. Let me do that again. Okay, that one's high right here. So check them on the ends, check them in the middle. You only want to span 3 frets at a time, okay? And that's how I go about it. So what that does for me, it tells me how many that I have that I need to address. Now, if there was just 1 or 2, then I would probably just address those individually with a file and some sandpaper and that kind of thing. When you start running into a bunch of them in a line, and I'm guessing we're going to probably find a few here too, then we need to level those out, you know, with a sanding beam. So that's probably what we're going to end up doing. These frets have never been dressed. They're really tall, so it's not going to hurt a thing. We're not going to take a ton off them anyway, but just enough to make them level so the strings won't buzz. Okay, so I found some more down in this area too. I just got to check these few here. So, you know what happens. The wood will shrink sometimes, and the steel fret wire doesn't. So, they can lift. They can do all kinds of different funky things. So, what I like to do is try to pound these down or press them down just to make sure they are, you know, seated. And if they're down good, then we'll just have to, you know, take it from the top side. But it is a good idea to try to pound some of these down. So I'll go down through with my fret hammer, and I'll just go right down through them all, give them all 3 or 4 good whacks across there, and that just ensures me that they are down as far as they can go. Okay, so as you can see, 5 good wraps across each one is just how it kind of works out with my own little pattern here. And so what I'll do now is go back and see if it helped. No, them ones are still up. So, it's worth a try. It doesn't always work, but I have saved myself some work by doing that. And sometimes it just, they weren't seated good enough, but these seem to be in there good. So we're going to get out the sanding beam and go to work on the top. Almost time to change the paper on my sanding beam. I've done, I don't know, maybe 20 fret jobs with that. Works really well. It's about, I don't know, 8 inches or so. You can get longer ones too. You can make your own as well with a nice straight edge, like a level, 2-foot level works good too. To each his own. I do recommend putting some magic marker or Sharpie on the fret wire, because that at least gives you some sort of a reference to how much you're removing, okay? And where it's being removed. It's something to pay attention to. I will do that a couple times. I may mark every other fret or something, just to keep track of what I'm doing here. So after I've done that, which it'll take probably some more, obviously, but just as far as how the procedure works, I'll go back over them and check them with a fret rocker again. Now, that's pretty good. So it didn't take a lot. That one's still a little high. Again, I'll start marking where I find high ones and just kind of concentrate on those and work those down as well. So once I get those worked down, it'll be just a matter of recrowning them, and that's it. We'll polish them after that, and this thing will be good to go. Okay, now that did take care of quite a bit of them already, just by going over that, and you just saw it in real time. So you don't have to spend hours doing it, okay? You just do it for a minute and then recheck, make some more marks. I find that's the safest way to do it. You don't want to take too much off here if you can help it. Less is better. Okay, so we still got one out here. Let's see as we get going. Now those don't feel too bad down here. Now you got to remember something. When you're sanding, say, down on that end, or if the nut was off, and you're going this way past that last fret, say you was at the heel, why don't I just spin the neck around, and then we'll be talking about the same end here, okay? So just remember, if you're sanding down here, okay, this last fret is going to get sanded more as you go out by. It's getting more abrasive than the rest of them, so keep that in mind. Now, it's not a bad thing. You kind of want them to tail down a little bit there anyway when you get out to the end. That's pretty much it, though. Another thing I will do is, I don't see a lot of people do this, but I'll take my sanding beam in this direction back and forth as well. After I've made these long strokes like we just did, this will be my next step, will be to just take, however many frets that'll span, 7 or 8, and I go side to side with it right out to the edges, and that takes the striations out of there for me. And I'm still going to crown these, but this just helps. It's just one less step, and it just seems to work better with a crowning file, honestly. It seems to work out smoother that way. And, you could level your frets this way as well. You don't have to go back and forth this way. if you do it this way, it almost kind of self-polishes them too. So, again, I like to go down through it one time like that and just make sure. I'll check that with a straight edge and a fret rocker again, and that pretty much will tell the story. Other than that, the next step will be to do some polishing on these after we crown them. So, after you sand them, it's going to flatten them off. You're going to need to re-crown these. So this is a pretty common crowning file that you can get really cheap. You can see it's concaved in the end here, okay? And that's to basically take some off each side and not shave it off the top. Now, each side's different. So if you want to tell which side is doing what, put a black mark on the top, okay? Now you can see that side took the mark right off it. So it's kind of taking some off the top. Now, if you use the other side, I'm kind of mixed up on my sides now, but was it that one? Yeah, okay, so the other side, let's flip that over. Now the other side just barely gets off the top, but I can see it's taking it off the sides more. So that's how you tell which side you should be using. If you want to level them down, you can use the side that takes them off the top, but to crown them, you want to make sure you're on the right side so you're not just shaving, height off your fret wire. And that's pretty much how you do it. Now, after those are all crowned, I usually I'll start with like 1,000 grit micro mesh. I'll try to span 3 frets when I'm down here. Very light pressure, always side to side. I don't touch the fretboard, and that's why I don't tape them off. And this is years of practicing this and perfecting this. So, practice on an old one. It's not really hard to do, but you don't want to be scratching the wood on a fretboard that doesn't belong to you. You may not even want to scratch the ones that do belong to you. So that's kind of my method. Now when I get down here, when I'm spanning 2 frets, I'll just put one finger over the fret wire here and one over the other one. Again, very minimal pressure here. A lot of repetition. So I'll start with 1,000, go to, 1,500, 2,000, 25, 3,000. I'm talking probably 10 or 15 strokes, 20 strokes with each grit, very lightly. And then I'll get it down to just this really fine stuff, which is just a polish at that point. And if needed, I'll bring out the fret erasers, which work very nice too. Some people don't like them. I don't mind them at all. I think they do a good job, especially if I'm not doing a leveling job and just, like changing strings. I might take a fret eraser out when I have the strings off, clean it up real quick, and restring the guitar, just to make sure everything's polished. But it's pretty much the procedure of how I go about doing this. Again, if you've never done this, practice on an old guitar or a cheap guitar. Even buy a cheap guitar neck or something off eBay or at the, Goodwill or something. If you want to practice pulling frets out, refretting, that's a good way to do it. And get used to it, just kind of designate that guitar or neck to your practice of fretwork. That's kind of how I really got started, was just, taking some really, really cheap guitars and doing that kind of thing, just so I could learn how it worked and what tools I needed, the techniques, that kind of stuff. So this one's pretty easy. These weren't bad, just a few high ones. They must have just kind of lifted up over time. They all look good though. Nice looking fret job, whoever did it. And so this will be pretty much ready to go here. In tomorrow's video, I'd like to bolt this back on. Then I can actually locate the bridge, get the saddles back on. I just got some slinkies today in the mail, so I can actually string this guitar up tomorrow and get it playing. There is a couple little sharpies poking out here on the ends, which tells me that probably just dried out over time. My guitars do it, so don't yours. They all do it, folks. So that, I just take a flat file on an angle. Again, this is all super light pressure. If it's painted, I'd tape it off. But where I do this a lot, it's all by touch, sound. You can feel the frets that are high. They'll kind of hang up on the file. So very light strokes across there. That already feels better. And you know, if you have I don't have mine out right now, but I have the little StewMac file to do the fret ends as well. Okay, it took me 15 minutes to find it, but here we go. Now, you can get these from Amazon, StewMac, wherever. This is a StewMac one. It's a really good file. I've used this a ton. So on this side it's flat, okay, and on the other side it is a safe edge. It's rounded and there's no teeth. So you take the side that's flat to get the very edge of the fret wire, okay? Just concentrating on that very corner. One stroke usually does it, and like a compound motion like I'm doing. Okay, both sides, you want to do that in both directions. Same motion, same technique every time. Then you flip it over and take your round safe edge, so that won't scratch up the fretboard. And then you get the rest of the fret end itself, and that's the upper part of the end in the crown itself. Okay, same kind of motion. It's just that down, and I kind of will twist and wrap around so it looks like this. Okay, and that's kind of how it is every time. Maybe a little more exaggerated when I'm doing it. Okay, so what that does is that takes care of all these sharp ends after you hit it with a flat file. I can still feel a couple more that poked out here. So I'll hit these with a flat file, just very lightly on an angle. And I can feel them dragging right there. Okay, so that took care of that. Now it will be just a matter of whipping the ends off again. And then I may even take micro mesh and go along them edges, even just barely catching the edges sometimes, like this. If I feel anything that kind of catches my hand as I rub it along. So, you know, that tells me that it's, you know, dried out. It happens. They seem to reach a certain point eventually where that kind of stops. They kind of reach a peak, I guess, of dryness, but you know, eventually, you know, the fret ends will just kind of stop poking out over time. You just got to keep cleaning them up until they do. So that feels pretty good right there. I am going to spend probably another 45 minutes or so doing this. I'm just kind of demonstrating what I do. It probably takes me an hour to complete this whole process and do it right. Taping it off, probably another hour and 15 minutes. When I'm done, I'll drag my fingernail across each piece of fret wire. if I feel any sort of hang up or ding or anything, I'll go back and address it. That should feel just like glass. And those do already. Like I said, it didn't take much. But you got to remember something. A 16th of an inch can make a string buzz, So it's really important to go through this and always double check like that. Like I said, I'll just go along with my fingernail. If you feel any sort of nick, ding, anything like that, you got to address it. Okay, folks, well, I'm not going to bore you with all the sanding strokes and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to go over the technique real quick and the tools that I use. And like I said, a flat file, a crowning file, and this small file for doing the fret ends. Some micro mesh pads. I do recommend that. Those are very handy. They last a long time. And a fret eraser kit, which is also handy. This is made by Baroque. I also have a crowning file made by them, which is really nice. So, fret erasers, if you're not familiar with them, it looks like an eraser you used to use in school. There's different grits, though, and I have quite a few different grits. This was just one kit that had 3 different kinds in it. So basically, this is how they work, and it just kind of shines up the fret wire, and they do a really good job. So you can go through the different grits and use those as well. And that's really kind of where I got the idea for doing this with the micro mesh, because I didn't have to tape anything off with these, which I really did like about that product. There's nothing wrong with taping the fretboard off, but it's just time consuming. If you're doing 2 or 3 of these in a day, that can really wear on you. Let's just say that. So it's really not a fun process doing fret jobs. Really taxing on your hands. If you have arthritis, you will definitely know that you have handled some fret tools the next morning, because your hands are going to be probably clenched like this and hard to open. Okay, folks, well, I guess I probably bored you all enough. I am anxious to get this back on the guitar and get this thing strung up and see what it sounds like. I haven't played a guitar for 3 days now myself, so I'm kind of edgy and itching to play one, and I want it to be this one, so we're going to give it a go and see what happens. I did just see a string bushing pop up right there, and that happens too. Things dry out. It's still tight though, so we won't have to worry about that, but good to notice, especially if you're doing any of this stuff yourself, folks, or you repair guys already know this. If something like that falls out on the floor, it can take you a week to find it, if you can find it. Sometimes it can take 10 seconds, but if you're in the middle of a project and you lose something like that, boy, that can be a real deal breaker and a downer. So I try to, maybe even just a piece of tape over that wouldn't be a bad idea. I should be practice what I'm preaching. At least keep your eyes on stuff, especially old acoustics. These things fall out all the time. So just beware of that. Okay, folks, I got to get back at it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Be good. Okie doke.